Welcome to the Quantum Guide Show, where you will find interesting guests and discussions about cutting-edge topics to assist you on your journey. The Quantum Guide Show is ideally suited to the newly awakened and for those who feel isolated by their newfound beliefs. The mind, body, and spirit thrive when we have a mission, and there is no greater mission than to become the change that we wish to see in the world. So hit the like button, subscribe to my YouTube, Odyssey, and Telegram channels, and share this show with your friends. Welcome back to the Quantum Guide Show. Today in episode 108, I'm introducing a new guest, and her name is Kathy Bates. Kathy is best known as the author of Getting Well God's Way. Today, we will talk about how Kathy came to write this book and more about the warning she is sharing with the world about 5G and the effects of this on humanity. The links will be below, and please do remember to subscribe, like this video, and share it with your friends. Hi, Kathy. Welcome to the Quantum Guide Show. How are you doing today?
Hi, Karen. I'm excited to be here. Excited.
I'm excited to find you, because you see, as I said earlier off camera, I think this is the gathering time, and we're all finding each other. And you, through a mutual friend that just came out of somewhere, you don't even know where, on social media, through her, you've met me, and now today you're on my show. I'm very excited to have you on because you have such an important message.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I'm excited for the opportunity, and I'm grateful for the magic that makes all this happen because, as I told you off camera, this Aurora came in. I didn't know she was in my friend base. I have probably close to 5,000 Facebook followers, but are friends, actually. I don't know how many followers, but I was having Kathy, why don't you just quit? A sane person would quit. Nobody's listening. Nobody wants to hear this. Nobody wants to change anything. They want everything changed, but they don't want to change. And so I was going, look, I wrote them a book. I've created a couple of websites. I've given them everything they want to know that a seeker can find their way. Why do I need to stay here doing this? And I thought, really, Kathy, are you crazy? And so Aurora saw that post and just blew in and said, no, ma'am, you are a gift to humanity. And they just don't know it yet. And I am here to make sure that you do not disappear. And so she is now reading the book. I think I sent you the graphic of what she had written. She said, by the way, for what it's worth, every time I open your book, I end up in tears. So it's a very powerful story that God has written us. And its timing is important. So.
Yeah, it is. It's so important. Sorry, I forgot to turn my main power supply on and my screen was dimming and I thought, oh no, we're doing a show.
Oh, okay.
I just put it on just so you know. Yes, and okay. Aurora came to me into my life. And we're talking about Aurora Seraphine. And please do check out the Quantum Guides show playlist, and you'll see she comes on about once a month and shares her wisdom with us. And so it was very serendipitous, that I found her, that she became involved in my life. And it seems to be there's a quickening and we're all finding each other. And what we have in common is we've already made those tough choices, and I'm talking about everyday stuff like our diet, how we treat our family members, how we treat ourselves, the temple body, on and on it goes. And so, those of us that are already sort of on that mission, and then we open ourselves up to spirit. And that's what you've done. Right. Kathy, can you start by telling us, how did you, what happened in your life, a little bit about your journey, as much as you're comfortable sharing, not, don't share anything you're not comfortable with. And before you wrote your book, what kind of led up to that point where you went, I need to write this book. I need to get it out there.
Well, I came into this world. My dad was a pastor when I was a child from the time I was 5 until probably 11. Um, when you're in the church 3 days a week or 4 times a week, every week, you're in a spiritual environment. So I had several profound spiritual experiences even as a child. But when my parents got divorced when I was 13, I didn't see that coming. They didn't argue in front of us. They didn't fight. I just didn't see it coming. And it I was the baby of the family. God wasn't talked about anymore. So we went from being the pastor's family to we didn't even go to church. So that was a pretty dramatic change for a child. And it was also when I remember at 11 looking up at my mom no, I must have been 13. There was a couple of friends of hers standing around talking, and I had this profound thought that came in that I wished I had never let go of and built my life around. But it was, I was looking up at these adults and I thought, y'all don't have a clue what you're doing. This is all balanced on the head of a pin. And so when they got divorced, me and my siblings, we lived in Huntsville, Texas, which was it was voted the #1 party school in the nation, Sam Houston State University, during the time that we lived there. So streaking was going on, sit-ins, drugs, I mean, the whole thing. And we were right in the middle of it. So I was on this path until much later. I, cleaned up some, got into a professional industry, and became engaged to a man. And on page 1 of the book, I share that I walked in on his suicide. And I became, I became the subject then of a murder investigation. And so this is when I remembered the God that I had met as a child, though. I was in deep trouble, and I could tell that someone was trying to either scare me or put me away. And I thought I couldn't figure it out. So after I got past this, it was during that ordeal that I remembered the God that I had met as a child. And I said to him, you're the only one that knows I didn't do this. And you're the only one with the power to get me out of this mess. So I said, here's the deal I'll make you. If you get my life out of the trash can, you can have it. I don't know what to do with it anyway. So it wasn't committed to anything great. So here, let's see what you do with it. And a couple of months later, I was actually exonerated by a judge who looked like Grandpa Walton. He had white hair to the bottom of his collar, a white beard to here, and he had taken off his white robe. And so he had a white dress shirt. He had a white aura that was easy to see with all of that. And he sat me down across from him, knee to knee. He had pulled his chair around the desk so he could sit with me instead of across from me. I'm still trying to figure out what's going on. I had just spent the day in a courtroom watching people in orange jumpsuits and leg irons and got fingerprinted. And so now I'm in this man's office, and he's saying to me, I've looked through this entire file and there's nothing here that makes me think you did this. I can't imagine what you've been through. I want you to go and walk out of my office and try to put your life back together. And so I did. But I never stopped thinking, who was pulling these strings? Because my case went all the way to kick out a grand jury indictment, when as it turned out, the grand jury had never met on the case. So I could see God's hand potentially moving me. We think bad people are scaring us into the corral sometimes, but sometimes it's God putting us right where he needs us to be. So I began to, it was a year later, I was in an industry that put me around a courthouse a lot. And I saw this county judge in a small town every day. And I kept thinking, we would hello, good morning to each other. And I finally decided that guy knows who that was trying to put me away. So one day I went up to his office and asked if I could come in and talk to him, and I closed the door. And he said, sure, come on in. I closed the door and I sat down and I said, I had a fiance that committed suicide. And then I became the target of an investigation, and there was no reason for that. And I'm trying to figure out who or why, and am I in any danger going forward? And he said, what kind of business was he in? And I said, he owned a magazine clearinghouse. It was like Publishers Clearinghouse, but much smaller. Never thought about it. He goes, well, there's your answer. I said, what? He said, that's a front organization. It's a money laundering facility for organized crime. Karen, when he said that, it was like watching shattered glass come back together in front of me. Every question I had was answered. So in retrospect, I recognized that God kept me from marrying into organized crime. Mm-hmm. So I went on with my life. I started crying out to God for 6 years. Once all of that happened, I was, turns out this judge's name, it was Judge Love. His name was Myron Love.
You can't make this stuff up. It is wild.
No, but it helped me see God. Mm-hmm. You know, that I was like, that wasn't Judge Love, that was God. And how did he arrange that? At 25 years old, he knew where I would be, what trouble I was in, and who he needed to have sitting there, and why their name needed to be that. It's amazing. And so it caught my mind. And then when I realized that he had saved me from that, okay, so then I began petitioning heaven. And it was, in my experience, I was banging on heaven's door every waking moment. Talk to me. Talk to me. I need to hear you. Mm-hmm. I want to do anything you tell me to do, but I need to know for a fact it's you. I need to hear you. And so I just every day, bam, bam, bam. I'm not going away. I'm not going away. And it went on for 6 years.
I'm a very emotional person. Just ignore me and keep talking. It's great. It's just great.
No, it's beautiful because this story is having that effect on people, and it had an effect on a man I'll tell you about from Australia. He asked for a Skype call. Anyway, remind me to tell you about him after the book came out. Okay, so I forgot where I was. I'm trying to I tried reading the Bible. It didn't work. I said, you know what? I'm going to put this in the net. I was traveling 5 hours to South Texas to work every week. And then Friday I'd travel back. Mm-hmm. I had how to read the Bible books, how to study them, and it wasn't working. So I said, you know what, God, I'm not rejecting this. It's not open to me yet. So I said, I'm going to put it right here in the back of this net on the car seat that I ride in a lot. It's with me. That's how I want it. It's perception. It's with me. And when it's time, I want you to open it to me. Please open it to me. Mm-hmm. And so that's where it stayed. And so I fell in love. I got married because God didn't show up and say, ba-da-da. So I'm like, okay, well, I met a man in the same business, and we married, and we had a child. And while I was pregnant, I was very sickly. I had very bad headaches, severe allergies, and couldn't take anything. And after she was born, I breastfed for 6 months, and then my milk just stopped. My body said, I can't. Mm-hmm. In fact, looking back, it's a miracle that I got pregnant, knowing what all was wrong with me. It's a miracle that she was born with no issues. Because anyway, this is, in looking back in retrospect, I lived 250 yards from an electric substation. Yeah, and a young lady, my peer, and her husband lived probably 75 yards from it, and she gave birth to a stillborn child. Mm-hmm. Nobody got it. We didn't get it. We just didn't connect the dots. And so now looking back, that's my big, like, oh, Oh, I see. Okay. So I got sick and I was, a new mom and wife, and we started going to church because, you want your child to be raised in a good Christian environment. So we started doing that. Well, my health failed. And when my health failed, I was doing all the things the church ordained. I was doing all the things that our culture ordains. I was living exactly like the television told me to live. And so when I got sick, I did what every other Christian I knew did. I went forward for prayer, and their prayer was, Father, I pray that you would give the doctors wisdom in their diagnosis and treatment of Kathy. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. It was the standard prayer. Nowhere in their idea, nowhere in their prayer, nowhere in their concept was it presented that I had a responsibility in that.
Yep.
Nowhere was it presented that the Bible had teachings of wisdom about how to care for my body. Nowhere in their organization was any, it just wasn't there. In fact, the Coke machines, the junk food, and the prescription doctor prayers pretty much summed up their approach to health. They know nothing about the human body. And so what they did is they farmed out that part of their calling or ministry, I'll call it, because I don't think it's a calling in most cases, calling to distract and deter and to mislead. But they had figured out a way of life that they like that lets them off the hook. They don't have to have any knowledge. They don't have to apply wisdom, and they don't even have to be disciplined. They just have to love Jesus and really, really mean it. That's it. And so I went to 11 doctors in an 18-month period, and I was met with irrational ideas. I met with explanations scientifically that conveniently let them off the hook for having any answers. At a certain point, after 18 months, I was worse. And so one day I was like, none of this jives with my personal belief system. And so I picked up the phone and I canceled 3 medical tests. I canceled all 3 follow-up appointments at the doctor's office. And I slid down the wall of my kitchen and I cried. And I said, Father, it's me and you. And if this doesn't work, I'm coming home early. And I said, and you're going to have a PR problem because I got a husband and a little baby. And I said, but I don't know what to do. And I said, and I'm willing to go to a doctor, but you're going to have to tell me which one has the answers. Because I said, me going from human to human, whether it's person at the church or the doctors, or do you have my answers? Well, Karen, who do you see for such and such? Well, do you have my answers? Well, what about you? I'm like, that says that my faith is in human ideas, and that's not true. So if God tells me something and I do it, then my follow through is an act of obedience. So I started down this track. I waited for 6 months and I got sicker. I started to, I thought, Kathy, this is dangerous, girl. And I thought, well, I was getting worse under the care of a dozen doctors. So what's changed other than the illusion of care? So I went back to, nope, waiting on God. That's what I said. And that's what I'm doing. So I settled back in and I said, nope, me and you, God. One day,
sorry,
go ahead.
Before you go on, I just want to validate what you're saying. I'm not going to take up too much time, but there was a time where I had very severe and obvious cancer symptoms, and I went to the doctor, and the doctor freaked me out and said, "We got to get you right away into chemotherapy and radiation, and you've got to see a surgeon, and you got to have this and that." And I walked out of there and I talked to God and I said, "This is between you and me. No doctor can tell me that I'm going to live or that I'm going to die." And so let me just sort of, I did the deal thing too. I said, let me float it out there that I either have cancer or I don't have cancer, kind of like Schrodinger's cat, right? In that limbo place. And I asked for direction, and I never went back to the doctor again. And in 3 months, I was completely symptom free. So I don't want to take away from your story. I just want to
Yes.
validate
No. Yes.
that
Yes.
how real this is to people who think
Yes.
they have to go and have all this medical tyranny is what I call it. But anyway,
Yeah.
let me stop
Yeah.
now and go back. So you're at the point where you basically had to empty yourself out. You're on your, you get to the point where you're on your knees because you got no
Right.
control over
Right.
all of this. Everything's
Yep.
moving against
Yep.
you. And so you turn to
Yep.
God. And then what happened? And I'm not even a religious person, so I'm just saying.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm not
please.
either anymore. I'm not either
Mhm.
anymore. And so, all right, well, a girlfriend dropped by one day unexpectedly. When you live in the country, they do that. And
Mhm.
so she dropped by, and when she saw me, she actually gasped. I mean, I must have looked. I think God showed her death.
Yeah.
And it freaked her out, and she left. And I saw her reaction, and I got on my knees by the couch, and my little girl was playing over in the floor with some toys. And I said, okay, God, I'm going to ask one last time.
Mhm.
And I said, if you don't show up this time, because I've been waiting, it's 6 months at that point.
Mhm.
I said, if you don't show up here today after what I just saw, I'm going to assume that I'm coming home and that's your will. And I'm going to stop fighting it. I'm
Mhm.
going to accept it and go down that road. So I said, we're at this place right here where I need to know what the purpose, what do you want me to do? So when you think it's the very last time you're going to ask for something, I was very careful about the wording.
Mhm.
And so I stopped and I thought, well, all those prayers for God, please, Father, all that stuff we do in the religious box, I threw it out. And I sat there and I thought, and I said, Father, I said, you're the creator God. You don't
Mhm.
have to guess what's wrong with me. You know exactly what's wrong with me, and you know exactly what I need to do to fix it. And I said, and this, the church has got us in some sort of stupid expecting that we just sit there and won't even defend ourselves. They've convinced us somebody's coming to save us and we're it. But they're not turning that light on. They're not. Okay. So I said, if it's not your will to heal me, will you show me what to do? Well, I was sitting there thinking, well, that was profound. I've never thought to ask that. And so I'm sitting there thinking, well, thank you, Holy Spirit. I'm pretty sure you did that. And so I'm sitting there thinking about it, and I become aware of a sound that is coming across the heavens towards our home that sounded like the roar of a train.
Mhm.
It came over the house. It was very big. And as it sat there, I could feel it getting smaller and smaller. And I thought, wow, I'm looking up and I'm like, I'm still trying to figure out what this is. And all of a sudden, it must have gotten small enough that it came up behind me where I was praying. I always cry when I hear this part. When I tell this part, it was like arms wrapped around me, and I started rocking back and forth. And this feeling came on me, through me, in me, around me, that let me know that whatever this was that was hugging me had waited a very long time to do that.
Mhm.
And I heard very clearly, as clear as you and I are talking today, everything's going to be okay, but you have to do exactly what I tell you to do. Do you understand? And I said, yes. I was grateful. Yes. There was another quick little hug, like, oof, I just love you. And then this, come on, get up. And I felt like there was pressure on my elbows. So I got up. I walked into the kitchen, and there was a bookshelf there. And there was a book called Fit for Life by Harvey and Marilyn Diamond, that the book itself stayed on the shelf, but every bit of the print and graphics came directly at me and went back on the shelf. And I went, that's an easy one. So I pulled the book down and said, okay, apparently I'm supposed to read that again. I had read it partially. They're very strict vegetarians. And so that was pretty far from my Texas girl upbringing. And so, but they did have a lot of information in there that was important about the importance of consuming a lot of live foods, the power of food combining protein and starches. And so I got part of the way into that, and then that voice that had spoken to me earlier was now just with me. I started calling it my Jewish mother presence because it became a little bit of a nag. Like very parental, very not messing around here, love you, but. And so the directive I got was, I want you to go to your pantry and I want you to pull everything out and read every ingredient. If you don't know what it is, it does not go in your body. And so I don't remember how that ended, but a girlfriend who later took that challenge said she went from being a single mom, very poor, and now married, and a stocked pantry was part of her, I'm okay. It's security. When she did this, she said she was left with a sack of cornmeal and a thing of paper muffin cups. So this is the American diet. And so we think this is food. We think this is nutrition. And so we think the criminal. FDA is it is criminal.
It's all, I don't want to interrupt again, but I just want to say, it doesn't matter what rabbit hole you go down, government, religion, politics, the food industry, it's appalling and disturbing. But until we face that, we can't dig our way out. Anyway, sorry, please do continue.
No, you're right. No,
appalling. The whole supermarket, there's almost maybe one or two things I can eat.
Right.
Row after row of toxic, life-ending, sickness causing, just blows me. I'm sorry, it just disturbs my
No,
nature.
it's right. Well, and so I was at that kind of sense of indignation while I was in the churches. And here I am with my husband and my child, and thinking that I'm doing the right thing. And I thought they just didn't know. They just didn't know, And so here I am having this powerfully spiritual experience at home. And so I start trying to share this with my Christian family and find out that not only did they not know, they didn't want to know.
Yeah.
And if I continued and I was not coming and still am not from, there's nothing in this book that is extreme. There's no veganism. That's not my path. That's not what I was sent in to teach. And so, or the story to tell. I share in here, if you want to be vegetarian, if you want to play with that for getting healthy, that's fine. Do it. But don't ever say this is the truth, because as soon as you do that, you can get into protein deficiency and then you won't admit it because you've planted so many flags. And so we're here to discover truth, not necessarily sign up with a club and run a banner. So, and it'll be different for each person,
Absolutely.
We all need to find our way. So if you're supposed to be a vegetarian, be it. And that's where I was. At the time I went to God and I had gotten so well, so fast. 3 months, I gotten off of several medications that I was on, and I was feeling better. And I was like, how did you do that? And he said, that's what happens. Food is medicine.
It is.
Your body can't deal with all this. So
it is the foundation to everything we want.
Yeah.
And yet we don't have access to it. It's very, I'll go hungry rather than eat something that's toxic, because I've been at this now, for 10 years, more than 10 years.
Yes.
So it's not like I just got here today. No, I had a terrible diet. I was very addicted to sugar and refined carbs. Like it was
Right.
like a heroin addiction for
Yes.
me, right? So it's taken me years to strip that off. But
right.
and even if we do go hungry, so what? A couple days without food and never hurt anybody. In fact, super good for you, right? So anyway, I'm sorry, I'm rambling on and interrupting your story, and I want to hear more.
That's okay.
It's just
that's
so
okay.
resonating with me. I can't sometimes keep my mouth shut.
That's good. We're all on the same team, and we're happy to find each other. So,
exactly.
well, you know, when I'm in the church, and they've got Coke machines, they've got junk food, they've got I'm going to call them stupid prayers that are not in alignment with their own text. And to find out that their illiteracy was intentional was very disturbing for me. When I ran across a scripture after I obeyed God and cleaned out my pantry, my refrigerator, the freezer, and then he took me to my medicine cabinet.
Yeah.
And then he took me to my closet and said, I want you wearing nothing but 100% cotton, unblended fibers. And I'm like, what? Okay, you're the boss, but what?
I got the same message, and I quit wearing synthetics, and I started wearing cotton, and sometimes you can get like hemp and beautiful natural fibers. Now it's almost impossible to get organic cotton. It's GMO. And so it itches the hell out of me because it's got the Roundup built into it. And after the show, or maybe later, you can tell me where you can find clothes. I don't know where to find clothes anymore. It's
right.
Just in the last 10 years, everything that's good has been sucked away.
Yeah. Well, the good news is that, and we'll get here before we end the show, but when I woke up this morning recognizing we were going to record today, and when I have to get dressed anyway, I decide, I'm like, okay, well, I'll do a go live on Facebook since I'm already done up. So I'm kind of starting to do that after I am on a podcast. I go ahead and do a go live, and I'm bringing those people forward. And so, dang it, I lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
That's okay. One of the things about being EMF sensitive is it causes easy distractibility. So if I'm going a certain direction and a bird can fly by and my brain goes, what?
Same.
Sometimes I can get it back. Yeah.
It's really hard to concentrate, and I have to limit my screen time because I get very ill if I spend too much time on it. But let me just go back and remind you. So you said first you had to go clean out your pantry, and then you had to go look at your medicine
we were at the closet.
And then you had to look at your clothes. That's where you left off.
The closet. That's right. The closet. Okay. So another thing that was very shocking about the closet is that I, like many Christians, had started collecting Jesus t-shirts. Now, and so I walked in there one day to pull out a t-shirt to wear. And now this is, a lot of religious people would be like, that wasn't God. But I clearly heard him say, I don't want you wearing a Jesus t-shirt. I want you to wear Christ. And I went, ooh, that's profound.
It is.
And he said, if you're doing it right, you don't need a t-shirt. And I went, ooh, that's profound too. And I was like, better. Okay. Yeah. And he goes, now I'm not saying you can't wear them. He said, if you want to wear one, wear one. And I had one that I loved. It was real appropriate because it showed a school of fish swimming one way. And here's this one fish swimming the opposite way. Well, that's me. And it was called Go Against the Flow. And I thought that represented me. So I still wore that one quite a bit. But one of the things that I found very interesting is after I had been on this path for a while and I was getting well and I started, the Bible did eventually get opened to me. And I do believe that's the way it is. Somebody told me one time, I'm an atheist. I read the Bible through cover to cover and da-da-da-da-da. And I said, if you read the Bible through cold, cover to cover, and it wasn't open to you, no wonder you're an atheist. You can't pick that book up. I said, it's the only book on the planet that the author accompanies it. but he does not reveal himself to just anybody. You got to deserve it. You got to want it. You got to press in, and he's got to know that he's not wasting his time. And then it will be open to you. It has to be understood that it's sacred, and you can't take every story just as it is written. It needs to be revealed. So, but there's a lot of basic, very foundational truth in there that'll just fly off the page in a sentence. So one of them that hit me was in Psalms 33:22. After I had decided, nope, I'm staying with God. We had this profound encounter. Now I'm up doing it his way. My kitchen's cleaned out. The spirit is in my head. Every time my elbow bent, I heard that Jewish mother present say, "What is that? Where did it come from? What do you know about it? Who says it's safe to eat it? Does it have a commercial?" And I was like, oh, geez. So it started bringing in what you and I would now call consciousness, awareness. What are you eating? What are you wearing? What are you thinking? What are you supporting? What is your lifestyle supporting? What are your habits supporting? What is your consumerism creating? What does the club that you belong to's ideas create out in the consumer market? And
and I ask people about their investments. I say, do you invest? They go, yeah. I say, have you looked in to see if your investments are ethical?
Right.
I never thought of that.
Right.
Sorry, I don't mean to make fun of people.
That's okay.
It's everything needs to be examined.
It does.
And then,
It's true. It's true. It's hard to do these shows and stay in an hour because there is so much going on that needs to be looked at, and maybe that's why God made me write the book. Yeah,
I'm gonna have to add you back because we haven't even gotten into 5G yet. So,
well, we'll get there pretty quick. We'll segue.
Okay. All right. Okay. Sorry, I'm gonna try not to interrupt. Zip it, and
that's okay. That's okay. Okay, so this scripture that I found that I think every Christian needs to hear, Psalm 33:22, and it said, "May your loving kindness and mercy, O Lord, be available to me in proportion to my waiting and hoping for you." Well, the church was teaching me, and the culture was teaching me to wait in a doctor's office and hope that they had my answers. Well, in 18 months, I had been in 11 doctor's offices, had all kinds of tests run, try this prescription, try that prescription. I was worse. So if his mercy and loving kindness are in proportion to my waiting and hoping for him, he wasn't even there. Because I hoped that he would, I do what most Christians did. I would pray on the way to the doctor. And it's like, no. So he has now taught me, and there's a time and a place for a doctor, but I have not been to a doctor, a medical doctor, for illness since 1989.
Wow, good for you. I don't mean to say that you shouldn't go see the doctor either, but when I walked out of that cancer thing, that was in 2011, and I haven't taken a pill. I don't even do over-the-counter medicine. I don't trust the whole system. If I want to heal myself and I can't do it with food, I just move to herbs and spices. Will do the job. Anyway,
there's tons of tools. There are so many tools.
There's so many non-invasive healing techniques now that are all based on energy and frequency. So whether it's essential oils, or whether it's massage, or whether it's Reiki, it's easier to find a healing modality that works than falling out of bed. And I go to every time I go once in a while I'll go just to get his opinion, make sure I'm on track. And I walk out of there going, he doesn't know anything except what a book produced by the pharmaceutical industry tells him. And don't get me started on mental health and the mental health office with their Coke machines and their chip machines.
Right.
Anyway, I'm so sorry, Kathy. We need to do another show.
Honey, that's fine. To me, this is conversation. So I enjoy your input. And I think if I just talked on, it would become drone-ish. So I like the intrusion.
Okay. All right.
This book it came out. So I began this journey, and I eventually left the churches. I, in retrospect, believe I stayed too long. I believe they damaged my marriage. I believe they damaged my child. At one point, we were paying almost $700 a month to have our child in a private Christian school. And what it produced was a child who had not been to a doctor since she was 18 months old and developing breast tissue. And it was about the same time I was having my awakening and my own natural health epiphanies and looking at doctors sideways going, I don't know. This doctor told me that was normal. And I'm like, for an 18-month-old to be developing breast tissue is normal. We've got to go now. I remember going out in the parking lot and just fussing. I was like, this is nuts. Well, I stopped buying all store-bought meat and went only to the health food store and bought it without hormones, without antibiotics, and it stopped. So anyway, that was another epiphany. She had not grown up on Coke, soda water, chips, all that kind of garbage. At 13 years old, my daughter comes home from their expensive Christian school and says, Mother, I want to be like them. And I said, what does that mean? Well, I want to eat what I want to eat and not care about it. I don't want to think about whether it's good for me or not. And I said, well, that's certainly an option for you. But I said, what you have to realize is if you're going to eat what they eat, you're going to get what they get. You're going to get the same consequences. There's not a separate set of consequences because you know Jesus. He's already straightened me out on that. That's not the way it works. It's not a get out of jail free card. And so I said, and because you're going to get sick doing that, and since we pay for your health care, I'm not agreeing to that. Now, when you get grown up and you have to pay for it and you have to tend your sicknesses, do it. But I'm not going to let you labor me. No. So I said, you're going to sneak. I know you probably do. And I said, and that's between you and God, but I'm not, as your parent, going to tell you this is okay and do it. You got to grow up and learn all this stuff your own. So, yep. But when I look back, I did write in the Getting Well book. This Getting Well God's Way book is 359 pages, 8.5 by 11. It feels and carries and reads like a manual. It has got tons of information about what I take, what I don't take, what my journey was like, why I gave up coffee, why. It helps us look at the detailed view, but instead of being a book that reads very, why coffee's not bad for you, it comes across as a personal story of exploration and revelation. And so I think it keeps it from reading in a boring way. And you see my struggle. You see me, because the book is set out in story form. I didn't start writing it for 2 years after God said to write it, because I'm like, I don't want to, first of all. Sounds hard. It was.
It is.
It was terrible. I didn't have a team around me, still don't.
Me too.
I do okay with grammar, punctuation, so I think it's good enough to not be distracting. I haven't had any complaints, but it wasn't something I ran to as a project. I, first of all, knew that it was going to threaten my marriage. In fact, when God first started talking, there was a moment that I said to him, if I do what you're asking me to do, it's going to destroy this marriage and beyond. And I think I knew or very early on, and God's answer was silence. Mm-hmm. That silence I now knew was, yeah, you're right, it's going to. So my husband and daughter basically are people that have decided that they need to fit in. They need peer approval. I didn't get that option, from that Judge Love experience. I'm on a different path and I'm highly accountable for it. Yep. And not anybody, no thing, no job, no career, no goal, no personal desires can come in front of this, nothing. And I'm sorry, because I'm certain that that made my husband feel like he came in second, because he did. But that wasn't my choice. I saw God invite him in to be my partner in this many times, but this is a hard journey. And just like your story, if somebody isn't locked in tight around you, they're going to get taken out of the way, because the story has to go on.
It does.
Your exclamation, your revelations. So what we're bringing forward is important. And I feel like God's interpretation is that, look, John, I love you. And yes, I like marriage and I don't like divorce. But if you're going to be in the way, he's in a position he has to make a choice. Does he want my story to go on, or does he want the marriage to go on? And so I knew that when I left, I would have to leave my child and the granddaughter that I raised for 19 months, and any more born, and 2 more have been born that I've never met. And I'm clear on the fact that it's not because I'm a bad person. It's because I'm living this story and I have to tell this story, and everybody can't come. And as you said, when we were first talking, I don't know where this is going. I wake up each morning and I say, good morning, Father. What are we doing today? And this is where it takes us. And so as it turns out, oops, it's important. So the book came out. I left a 25-year marriage. He was the primary breadwinner. I felt like a poodle that had been thrown out in the street. I felt like half of my body had been ripped off of me for 2 years. I had to, as I said, leave the whole thing, or I knew I was going to be continued to be pulled into drama and trauma and distraction, and it just wasn't an option. So anyway, I was out on my own for a year, and then God shut my business down. I was a licensed massage therapist in Texas from 1995 until 2021, when they wanted my fingerprints. And I said, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not a criminal, not doing it. And it was COVID. COVID has moved so many destruction forces into our lives that we're going to have a massive cleanup here if we can even do it. And they've been quite busy with their trickery. So anyway, the book came out, and he shut my business down. I called my mother, who was widowed and had been since 2002. And we're very close. We live together now. She's 87 and she's just wonderful. I went to her and I said, Mom, God's shutting my business down. Oh, no, he's not. I had a wonderful piece of equipment and wonderful clients, and deeply spiritual place. He took it. And I was like, okay. So I said, Mother, I need to sell everything, including my car. I need to sell all my jewelry. I need to put furniture in storage that I can't sell. I need to drive my deceased stepfather's vehicle, if you're okay with that, and move in with you. And she said, well, of course you can, but no, everything will be fine. Well, no, it wasn't fine. God shut everything off. I was so mad, Karen. I did 96% of the move alone, and I was fueled by pure anger. I unpacked at a record pace. I sat down on the bed that used to be my grandmother's, and I said to God, what do you want? Why did you do that? I need you to finish the book. And I actually did start the book in 1994. He told me in 92, I didn't write one word. So in 1994, I had 4 premonitions, and I kept seeing myself from the waist down, and it was my legs and they weren't moving. And I wrote it down in a journal. I started keeping journals when he first started talking. And we're going to talk about how that segues into this 5G. And we'll close this episode at some point with the hope, because I want you to see that God's been here all along. I want your viewers to see we're not alone. And so he said, I need you to finish the book. So I did. I was angry. This is a book that made me cry and shake while I was writing it. I did not expect it to be accepted. And so I did it out of pure grit. When I finished it, 2 days before I put it up on Facebook, on Amazon, because nobody came up saying, oh, I'll publish it. I made efforts, nobody. So I'm like, okay, I'll self-publish.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 days before I put it up, something came across my cell phone riding in the car with my mother. And it was in the book, I talk about a nonprofit health insurance ministry where the members actually share each other's cost, and anything over $5,000 is covered by a AAA rated insurance company. A company that I wasn't aware of came across my Facebook page. So I went, send me an email, because I thought that would remind me later. So instead of putting the book up, I went and researched that company, found out that there were 3 more. So I expanded that section of the book and put the book up on Amazon. A couple of days later, a woman called me. Her name is Nancy Kovaleski, and she said, I see that you signed up on our website for information on this insurance product. Wanted to see if you have any questions. And I said, no, Nancy, I haven't been to a medical doctor for illness since in 23 years at that time. And I said, so insurance is not a priority for me, and I don't have the money, but I did put your company's information in my book. And she said, what book? So I told her. She ordered it on Amazon. And then 4 days later, I got an email from her, and I'm reading the email when she called, and she said, I know I just sent you an email, but I just wanted to tell you this in person. And I said, okay, what? And she goes, Kathy, I stuck my thumbnail in a random spot in that book, and my eyes fell on the name of Dr. Sherry Tenpenny. Does she know she's in your book? And I said, no, honey, she doesn't even know I'm on the planet. Why do you ask?
Many of us have now discovered that the world is not what we thought it was, and global events have left many feeling unsettled and even isolated. Karen Holton offers vital services that may be just what you need as she supports your journey into the weird and wonderful. Karen offers awakening support and ascension consultation to support individuals on their journey. For more details, check out her various vital services. Once you find your way through this process, there are many blessings on the other side. Visit Karen's website, KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com, to get started today.
She said, well, she's about to. She's my neighbor.
Oh, awesome.
And I said, well, Nancy, I said, that's God. I said, I put him in charge of marketing. And she went, what? And I said, no, I'm serious. I said, Nancy, I didn't want to write this book. I knew it was going to destroy everything, and it did. And I said, so when I finished it, I said, I held my laptop up to God, and I said, here's the book I believe you commissioned. And I said, I don't know what happens with it from here. I've never done this. And I said, Father, to be quite honest, I said, I'm exhausted. I'm broke. And if I'm honest, I'm like, so I don't think I have anything left to launch this. You're going to have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I got to heal. And so here's this woman who lives next door to Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, who is globally known, who travels all over the world speaking about the dangers of vaccines.
Mm-hmm.
And a few months later, I began to get this nagging feeling that I needed to go visit Nancy. So I took 1/6 of my net worth and I spent it going up to Ohio.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
And so, God just never quits, does he? He just never, he's like, come on, keep going. I'm like, I'm broke. Did you not hear me? Come on, keep going. But he keeps doing those little things that keep you going. This is right. This is right. And so I went to visit her, and she surprised me with a visit to Dr. Tenpenny. Dr. Tenpenny and I are visiting for about 30 minutes. And she says, have you ever been on the radio? And I said, yeah, I did an interview a couple of weeks ago. She said, how did you do? And I said, it rolls off of me like water. Let's do it. And she goes, good, because I'm fixing to do a 1-hour interview, and I'm going to introduce you to the world. This woman gave me the second half of her 1-hour interview to introduce the book, to tell my story, blah, blah, blah. When we finished and everything was done, she rocked back in her chair and winked at me and said, welcome to the world stage. So that's God. And I thought, oh, yay, all the hardship is over. Oh, no, he wasn't finished. So I get home and the phone starts blowing up with Facebook messages. And I held that phone up to God and I said, I don't know what you're going to do with this book and this story, but if this is any indication, all I can say to you is I do not want this phone. I do not want to be this in touch. I do not want to be this available. This is not okay. And one thing I noticed cell phones do, people will send you a text message at 2:00 in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
And we have forgotten all of our manners. We have forgotten our boundaries. So this phone has made us very self-centered, very aggressive, why didn't you answer my text? And it's like, because I'm still thinking and praying about how I wanted to respond.
And you may not want to. You may not want to be tethered to your phone. I know I
exactly
sure don't. In fact, I keep that sucker as far away from me as I can, unless I have to use it. And my big pet peeve is people send me a friend request on Facebook, and then they're on Messenger going, "Hey, what are you doing?"
Yeah.
And I'm going, "Are you nuts?" Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, hopefully we will show people how to use their phones differently, Karen. So we're going to try to start.
I'm open to that. I'm open to that. I went and
Yeah.
bought myself one of those meters that tells you when you have dangerous levels of all kinds of frequencies.
Good.
And it scared me so bad that I just went and put it away and never took it out again, because it's
good.
It's so, I mean, everything we've talked about, everything the construct gives us, that we're supposed to spend money on is dangerous. It's all life threatening, all of it. And, I got to tell you, I lived because I raised my kids as a single mom, and I was very low income, and I have invisible disability issues that prevented me from working full time. And so we always had to go into low income housing, and guess where it is? It's always right around a radio station.
Oh, the towers.
Tower,
yeah.
Right? And so for years and years, I was going to the doctor, and their solution for everything is surgery. I mean, even their solution for gender dysphoria, which is supposed to be a mental thing, is surgery. Anyway.
Yes, you're right.
It's, you have to have a tremendous amount of courage to come out and go, okay, I want to know, basically, teach me the truth, Lord, no matter what the cost. And when you start having your eyes opened, it's a very rough, rocky roller coaster ride. But thank God we're finding each other, Kathy.
Right. Yes, Karen. Yes. Yeah. And that's the way this is going to survive. What God told me before we moved away from Austin, Texas, he said, Kathy, because he had to argue with me for 2 months about coming up here and starting yet another mission against a corrupt utility company. And I was like, Father, for 2 months, I was like, it's too late. It's too late. I said, Father, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I feel like I'm trying to wrestle a dead puppy away from a little boy. It's too late. Humanity has so messed this up. So, and he said to me, he said, I'm lighting pilot fires all over the world. Light your fire. And one day I'm going to bring them all together.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a visual that we warriors need to hold on to. There are pilot fires lit all over the world, and just because we can't see them doesn't mean it's not, because they're just right over that horizon. So we have to keep doing what we're doing. So that was my first little, like, I don't want this phone. Okay. But the good news that happened after that interview was that the book went out, and a man was waiting on his wife to come home from work, and he picked it up to read. And he told me at a birthday party later, he said, when Desiree came in the door, she found me on my knees in tears in the living room reading your book introduction. He said, "You're right." And I said, "I know, I know." And so that was my first clue that, like, this is a big old burly goes to the gym guy, and he was on his knees in tears. So, all right, that had happened before the Dr. Tenpenny interview. So this woman reached out to me on private message from Australia. And for whatever reason, I emailed her the book introduction. And she read it to her 7 children. It's 26 pages. And then she and her husband, at some point, she read it to him. And he said, "I want to talk to this lady on Skype. You think she'll do that?" And I said, "Sure." So we got on Skype. And an hour and a half into the call, he says, "I need to tell you that I started crying shortly after you started talking, and I can't stop." And I said, "Wow." And I said, "What do you think's going on?" And he said, "When you talk, I hear God."
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't heard God in a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And that man continued sniffling for what was a 3-hour phone call. So then another man gets the book. And he says, he contacted me. He ordered 50 of them to hand out in his little town of Hollywood, Maryland. He gave them to everyone. And in our first phone call, at the end of it, he started crying. And he said, "You're a messenger sent from God. And if we don't listen to you, we deserve what happens next." And I said, "I agree." And so from there, the book, so it went out in April of 2015. I had a message from someone that said, "God said to tell you that your accolades would follow your restoration." This was okay. And I said, "Well, good. At least he knows his warriors beat up." I felt like I was beat up and in the ditch, everything taken. I couldn't see the future even. I was like, so I barely finished the book, and he starts telling me, "Write a screenplay." Well, that sent me to my mother, crying my eyes out. And I said, "I think I'm crazy, and you just love me too much to tell me." So she said, "Kathy, put it up in the closet and tell God you need confirmation." So I did. And so it came, because he always does. And so I finally, I was so angry. I was like, "You're never going to give me my life back, are you?" I still didn't realize this was my life. So
Yeah.
I'm like, "You're never going to give me my life back, are you?" So anyway, I thought, well, okay. So I wrote a screenplay in 3 weeks. I had never written a screenplay. I wrote a book. I looked it up online, how it's written, and I wrote a screenplay. And I said, "There, now can I have my life back?" Okay, so that was probably August, June, I got the message, "Your accolades will follow your restoration." It was a very profound message. August 2015 is when Dr. Tenpenny happened. The next year, August of 2016, I got a new cell phone. I had an iPhone 4, and I upgraded to a 5C and thought, I'm going to go back into this former work I was doing. I can get more clients direct. I can keep all the money myself. I got to have the fastest phone to collect the assignments, though. So I went and got a new cell phone. My hands started aching when I would hold the phone, and I thought, what is that? And so I bought a case for it, and it didn't dawn on me I had bought a radiation blocking case. Keyword here being radiation. And what I now know is that case did not protect the highest output place of the phone, which is at the bottom of it where you plug in its charger. So, and when we're holding them, and if you think about the design of these phones, they could have turned that and put it on the other end away from us, but they did not. It is pointed directly at our heart, our soul, our solar plexus, our pancreas, our all of our vital organs are right in the center of our chest, and that thing's pointed right at it. And we got, so long story short, a few weeks later, my mother had an iPhone 6S. We were at Home Depot. She was looking for something, and I said, no, Mother, right here. And I touched the screen of her phone to show her where to tap, and a pain shot up my arm that felt like a blood pressure cuff was on too tight, and it stayed there for 2 hours at that intensity.
Yeah.
I didn't go to a doctor because I knew what were they going to do? I mean, my electrical.
They don't know anything except what's in their little book.
Although I did see an email that I haven't opened yet that says the FDA is now coming out with a pill that keeps us from reacting to EMFs. And I'm like,
do you trust
by
that?
what method? No.
No. Liars and con artists.
Well, are these the same people that approve the phone?
Give me my pitchfork.
I'll go with you. All right. So I figured out pretty quickly, can't touch the phone. I tried to spend less time with it, unplugged the Wi-Fi at night because I said, well, we don't need this on cooking us all night.
Yeah.
Unplugged it. A couple of days later, I was getting out of the shower, and Karen, a literal wave that was probably 7 to 8 feet tall hit me so hard. Now you picture I'm a water-filled upright antenna, and I'm now soaking wet. I'm ungrounded. I'm standing in this electrical world that we have now created, and a 7 to 8 foot wave hit me and almost knocked me off my feet. And I thought, nobody has to explain that to me. That was a wave of energy.
Yeah.
I wrapped my towel around me. I stepped across the hall to see if Mother had plugged up the Wi-Fi. Where did that wave come from? Mm-hmm. She's got the plug in her hand, had not plugged it in. Mm-hmm. But right behind her, there was an AT&T wireless alarm system with 4 antennas across it, plugged into that Wi-Fi modem. Even on the AT&T installation book, which I went and chased down online, it says, do not plug this into any form of transmitter. Well, what is a Wi-Fi modem? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So whatever that wireless alarm system was doing, to me, was now amplified. And I realized we've got transmitters all over the house. And I began to realize there are waves all in this place we can't see.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what,
yeah. I was living in, again, getting back to low income housing, which is usually substandard. Right. I was living in townhouses, and we had a smart meter, and we're population dense. Smart meter at every single unit. Right. And on the outside, there's all the electrical smart meters. And I'm thinking, and here people in the complex are getting sick and dying. Right. And I was sick every day I lived there. Mm-hmm. You're not exaggerating. In fact, you're probably understating the reality that we're all basically drowning in right now.
Well, and that's what created the need for another book. Yeah. And I had, because I had this experience, I tell people a lot that, what's funny, this book came out, grown men are dropping to their knees in tears. One woman, women too, but the men was what surprised me. I didn't expect that. One woman had a 2-hour miraculous healing encounter with God while reading the book. And I say, people, it is that kind of book for people that are ready. This book will take you on a guided tour. And if you allow it, the Holy Spirit will come in beside you and do for you what he did for me and what he's done for others. He's no respecter of persons. He doesn't love me more. I expected this was the pathway. And that's what I asked God. through my life back in 1982, tell a story through my life that will help mankind.
Yes.
And that was, it seemed really like a great idea. What story would God write if somebody gave him that kind of latitude? And so I thought the other day, I should retitle this book and release it somewhere else and call it The Yielded Life, because that's what it shows us. And this story that I'm living has actually unintentionally converted 3 atheists. I don't try to win people over to Jesus. I just do my thing. And if they're paying attention, they'll see God. And every one of them said to me, this God of yours, that's what they described, this God of yours, I can see a purpose for having him in my life. See, they don't want this God that says, don't do this and don't do that the Christians have been telling them. They completely fail to show them a God that will come in beside them and walk with them on this narrow way. Oh, you need an herb for a headache? Here you go, baby. Oh, you need this little talent? Well, look, here comes Isis Sophia blazing into your... Oh, here's Nancy Kovaleski. Oh, here's this. Oh, look, and she lives next door too. And oh, look.
Yes.
So, it's going to be interesting. And I just think it's so funny. I've been watching these videos lately that are talking about the galactic war and that these beings are going to have a war with God, and they believe they're going to win. And I'm like, have they not read the Bible? Yeah, have you not read?
I know. People are really looking for a savior so they don't have to take responsibility for their own sovereignty.
Yes.
So if it isn't Jesus going to come save us, it's the intergalactics are going to come and save us. And not according to my intel, but I wanted to just comment a little bit about something you said. So for me, because of so many years of brainwashing, I had externalized God in my conceptual universe, I guess.
Right.
But when I was in the hospital, I had it's funny, everything bad that's happened to me, Kathy, has been the best thing that ever could have happened for my path. Yeah. Anyway, I was in the hospital and they botched my surgery really badly. I was on deathbed for 6 weeks. I could have nothing by mouth. I had to. It's a whole show in itself. I'm not going to get into, but it was about as bad as you could get and as close to torture 24/7 for 6 weeks that you could ever even imagine. But anyway, while I was in there, I had been already spiritually awakened and everything. And while I was in there, I went, I can't get out to get any spiritual support. I can't get to a church. I can't go anywhere. I thought, well, Karen, it's time for you to test the system and see if it's real, and time for you to move God inside me. Right. And then nothing can separate us. Nothing. That's right. And that beautiful voice we get that is like a parent that is raising me to grow up and heal. And it's not because I'm a special person. It's available to everybody. But that secret is being kept away from the masses, not to mention people don't want to take responsibility. I think it's kind of those two things.
No, it's,
I don't know. What
yes, it is. It is. I 100% agree with you. I mean, that's what I realized that my participation in church, I now say that it feels like they top out about 3rd grade. That's it. And if you want to stay in the 3rd grade, stay there. But I'm going on to the 8th grade now. You know what, Kathy? I'm somewhere.
It's like asking Superman to take the bus.
Yeah.
He can fly.
Yes.
It's like asking him to take the bus. Sit at the bus. Like that's what church is like for me. And people go, oh, Karen, you'd be such an asset to our congregation. Come to church with me. And I'm thinking, no way. And I'm so sorry if I come across as being anti-religious, just that based on my own experiences, this is how I feel and it's legitimate. Same like
I am anti-religious. I am not anti-God, but I believe religion is dangerous. It is very dangerous. There was a Well, and here's the funny thing though, because I believe, I feel like God sent me in like a secret shopper.
Yes,
And then after
you're
then
undercover.
yeah, and then after I went through that thing, then he said, "Now write a report." And I'm like,
I'm supposed to
"Ooh."
be, I've got a book that's actually half finished, Kathy, and I've been spirit directed to it. And and I've been, I keep getting the call to get back and finish it, get back to finish it, Karen, finish it, Karen.
It's hard.
And
it's very hard.
It is really hard. And I've got some learning disabilities. So for me, what's scaring the hell out of me is getting it published on Amazon, which is probably going to be an easy process, but it scares me.
Oh,
so
there's
that
nothing
prevents
to
me
it.
from finishing my book.
Nothing to it. I'll show you how. Nothing to it.
Thank you.
I'll show you how. Yeah. Now you don't have that excuse. So now what you gonna do?
Another friend offered to show me how. He's published Preston Dennett. I don't know if you know about Preston. He's published 26 books. And many of them bestsellers. And he said, Karen, I'll help you. We can do it. I can be on the phone with you even if you want.
Yeah.
So scared and I have so little confidence that but anyway, I'm sorry, I'm taking it all away. Please
and
jump
and
back
you know
in.
the same thing is, but at the same time, I've had the same issues with launching my podcast. I've been actively avoiding it for 10 years. So and yet you did that. So anyway, you'll get around to the book and
you
so
need
it'll
to
just
talk
keep coming.
to me. And you need to talk to me. I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound all up there when I say you need to talk to me, but
No, that's fine.
Tell you basically the steps to building a podcast so you don't have to make the 50,000 mistakes that I made. And you don't have to do it my way. But this is, because I didn't have anyone, well, hardly anyone. I guess a few people have helped. But, it's not hard if you know how, but that's the thing is finding out how and not having to pay $50,000 for it.
Right.
But I encourage everybody to do a podcast.
The time is now. I mean, the time is now.
Yeah.
So I love it that everybody's got access to a microphone and a camera. It's the way we're going to change. This story that I have lived, the book that I have written, it would go nowhere without what's happening right now. So I applaud you for being one of the ones to blaze through and get this started. So every time I watch.
It wasn't easy, Kathy. You would not believe the times I wanted to quit. You know what my message from Holy Spirit was? Because I had been praying, please give me the words, give me the message, help me to help humanity. I want to make something out of my life, Please help me, please help me. So I'm making all these podcasts and I'm so self-critical. I'm listening to them. And about a year or maybe 2 years ago, I said to God, I'm going to quit. I'm horrible. Nobody is going to want to listen to my podcasts. They're terrible. And I'm going to quit. And you know what Holy Spirit said to me? Karen, it's going to make me cry. Said, Karen, how dare you ask us for a gift? We give it to you. And now you're telling us that our gift isn't good enough, that your message is not good enough. How dare you question? Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah.
What we have put in your mouth to say. And I thought, oh my God, it's true. And then I started the show. And here I am. I'm such a big
He's persuasive. He's persuasive. Well, I read one time that when we think about quitting, those of us that are called to this kind of path, it's actually considered spiritual treason.
Yeah, or maybe
I'm like,
sinning against the Holy Spirit. That's in the Bible that I read, called it sinning against the Holy Spirit.
Right. Yeah. Well, obedience is huge. I was thinking this morning about how many people that I know of that are Christians that are part of the problem because of their lifestyle. And they think, well, I love the Lord. I just love the Lord. I just love the Lord. And I just love the Lord. And I'm like, that's great. But that obedience thing is a big deal to him. Mm-hmm. And I tell people a lot of the stuff. I had somebody tell me, oh, Kathy, I was going to order your book, but I'm afraid it'll tell me to give up sugar.
Damn straight it's going to tell you to give up sugar.
But I mean, but you stop and deconstruct her thought patterns. And I'm like, but what are you going to get if you give up sugar? That's what my book teaches. Because when you lay these low vibration things down, you start raising your own consciousness. You start raising your own awareness. You start becoming a more perfect vehicle for putting higher insights in. So if you don't want any of that, go ahead and eat your sugar. But I want that.
Donut shops right down the street.
Yeah.
You can knock yourself
Yeah.
out. You know,
Well,
Holy Spirit also changed the way I perceive things. Like, for instance, if I went into Tim Hortons because someone's getting a cup of tea or I'm going in there with him or something, I look at all those donuts, and I don't know what you call it in the States. That's where most people go in Canada. And I look at it, and Holy Spirit's changed the way I see it so that it doesn't even look like real food. It looks like plastic, fake things. And I'm in no way tempted. I was able to give up alcohol, no problem. That surprised me. And all kinds of things. I'm not saying you have to give up alcohol. Just for me, I had to give up alcohol, right?
Right. Well, everybody's got to find what they're,
what's holding them back and deal with it.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
yes,
we're the only
that's
ones
a good way to put it.
Who really can. Kathy, now we've only got about 10 more minutes, and I'm so sorry we didn't even we did touch on the 5G. And I'm going to
let me touch on that.
To everything below, but I want to give you a chance, to say something, and then I'm really hoping you'll come back, and then maybe next time we'll deal right with 5G for the whole session if you agree to that. And
absolutely,
I think it's really important. But I'll be hard for me to zip it.
Well, everything that I want people to know is in some documents that, so I have created a lot. The Getting Well God's Way book, New Insights for a New Era. It came out, it was Getting Well God's Way. I later put a subtitle on it, Handbook for Humans. And after I had some rather quantum experiences, such as Give It a Sound, as there's a section of the book called Give It a Sound, where God actually blew a pitch pipe in my ear to bring me out of a pain level that I felt like I was leaving my body during a myelogram test. And so Give It a Sound, it's in there. Should Christian I love this title. Do Christians have chakras? Because I get yelled at a lot for acknowledging that we have a chakra system or a meridian system, and that third eye is part of it. And so should Christians do yoga? Yoga was, it helped me heal 11 years of crippling sciatica. It kept me from having a nervous breakdown while my marriage was dying and I knew I was going to have to leave. I have not turned into a Hindu. I have not forgotten who Christ is. I'm not purging demons. I'm not even giving homage to any of them that I am aware of. So, and then the final thing was a single meditation session led by Dr. Joe Dispenza that I read in a book, coupled with some of the healing prayer gift that God gave me. And I woke up the next morning and 15 years of grieving was gone. I grieved for 5 years knowing I had to leave my family. I cried almost every waking moment for 5 years after I left them. And I went into mourning for 5 years after that. And I couldn't get rid of it. This one meditation, I woke up and it was gone. So the book has taken on a flavor. I made a graphic recently that said, I'm not a new ager. I'm a spirit-led Christian who has been led to read into some quantum material and had experiences. If you need to label me or throw me in the trash or knock me out of go ahead. Whatever your little process is, do it. I'm going to tell my story and I'm going to stay on the path because I have to answer to someone other than people. So this Getting Well God's Way book has its own website, gettingwellgodsway.com. And then after I touched the phone and got taken down that path, I did extensive reading for about 6 months after I learned to hardwire, ground, and shield my computer. I have a
Mhm.
blue light screen blocker on every screen in the house. So let me tell you about the websites where you'll find a lot of good information on the technology. These are safe tech sites, in my opinion, but one of them is called thetruthabouttechnology.org. It is in one page, you're going to get a glimpse of what all of this stuff is doing that will hopefully shock people. It has been built out. There's a category of that site called Images That Teach. And I tell everyone, you need to get something to drink and go park there for 15 or 20 minutes and see where it takes you. So the next site that I'll reference is called noatt.blog. The long name is Neighbors Organizing Against Trespassing Technology.blog. I shortened it, noatt.blog. There's a featured post there that was created after I got up my safe computer setting in Austin still, and I started reading. I was probably reading 6 to 7 hours a day, 6 days a week. Most days I would come away from the computer with tears in my eyes saying, they're going to kill everything. They're going to kill everything. Now, is it intentional? Yeah. Is it intentional or is it ignorance? And I say, yeah, well, to me, we're watching our replacement population come in through our southern border, and they're not giving any of them any of the new remedies. So if you're a connect the dots person, it's pretty clear to see what's going on. My question as a Christian then becomes, and I don't know if I'm a Christian or not. They've thrown me out. I don't align with them in so much, so I don't know. I am of a mind, I think, that meeting the very first podcast host that had me on, and he talks a lot about the galactic and has some Pleiadians and people coming to talk, and I'm going, oh my gosh. Then I start listening to Thomas Horn, who's a biblical scholar who brings this stuff in. And I'm like, see, it's not crazy. And so, well, you
and
know,
I've had my own adventures.
Yes, you have. And so when I got put onto your show and I went to see your story and listen to it. And so where I find that our ways and beliefs and paths merge is that I do not believe, as Christianity touts, that there's going to be an escape hatch in the form of a rapture where everybody that has a plastic fish on their car and goes to the religious institutions dutifully and puts some money in the plate, you know, is going to be lifted up through an escape hatch to not be held accountable for what they created in direct disobedience to the text that they say that they believe in. I'm like, I don't believe that. And so I was telling another interviewer the other day, I said, you know, when I get on my grounded yoga mat and I've got my 2 selenite harmonizers in my hand and I go into the theta state and I start relaxing and I start kind of going into my prayer and stillness mode, and I feel this energy dancing across my nose, and then it goes up and settles between my eyes, and then I feel something open in the top of my head, and I feel what feels like energy coming and going, and then suddenly I can't even feel myself in space. I'm just there. And that is what makes me realize that the next place that we go, because it is possible that we have destroyed this earth so badly that it'll take 1,000 years to heal from our visit. And so I'm like, maybe that 1,000 years of peace is because we ain't here no more. Maybe it's just the zombie apocalypse that's left behind. I don't know. But I don't know. But I'm like, I do believe, and one of the things that you said in your interview with Rex Bear that really struck me, and I went, bam, that's it. I believe it's entirely possible that the next place that is open to those who have done the work is an ethereal experience that you have to be ready for. And I didn't know what that readiness looked like until I listened to you talking to Rex Bear, and you talked about this entity that was telling you, and I don't know if entity is the right word, but this ET that you had speaking to you for 90 days, and that they don't have a mouth. I watched the disclosure that David Wilcox did, Cosmic Disclosure. I watched, I don't know, I think 18 episodes. And by the time I got to 14, I was like, this is real. This Bill Good guy, this is real. And so didn't know what to think about it, but put it over on my shelf. And so he explained and showed this blue avian man, and that he did not have a mouth. He had what looked like a beak, but it never opened. It would form and it would look like it was talking, but it never had an open breathing hole. And you said they are thought. They live in a thought world, and they're very protective of their children.
Very.
And yeah, and that makes sense to me if they're a thought world, and that child probably has some protective field around them in that sense.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so here we come up with our, as you described it, our moving mouth with all of its fluids and stuff, and our teeth and the tongue. And, you know, I never thought about it, how that would be such a turnoff until you described it.
We're
and then
very
you said
barbaric around our mouth, even our eating, and I'm no exception. So yeah, it's a real trip. It's a real trip. I'll tell you, reality is so much more interesting once I stepped out of the box. You know, it's and the other thing that I really want to stress is you hear all these scary stories, but in my experience, I have found nothing but love, health, unity. I have seen no evidence whatsoever of anything that was frightening or hurtful to me. No, that's man's world. Man's world is really scary to me.
Well, the following thing that you said, the follow-up remark, you said, they want, didn't you describe that they're creating another planet for us, but we can't go there because in our current state, we would just go wreck that planet too. And you said
many planets. There's many, like more than you could ever imagine planets. That's just in the one universe. We live in a multiverse, actually an omniverse, which includes the spiritual realms. And and they have everything, but they don't have humans. All humans are created by the creator. We never evolved from anything. We were created this way, and we're put in these beautiful garden paradise homes to start over, because planets are not always safe. Not to mention, look at our world leaders. You know, if they were able to continue, which I don't think they will, how long would we survive? But they're not going to move the infection from Earth, which basically I'm going to call it psychopathy. They're not going to move psychopathy into why would they do? They wouldn't do that because the psychopathy is wrong, and it's I don't know what you want to call it, but it's a defect that's got to go.
Well, it helped me
Karen
tremendously.
Says it's gotta go. It's gotta go.
It does have to go. It can't. I mean, it just can't. It can't. Well, it helped me tremendously in the very next meditation session I did, because you said our thoughts are messy. Our thoughts are messy, and I thought, see, that gave me something to ground, because in meditation, that monkey mind, is just doing its little thing. And I've learned not to fight it. Just let it run its course, and it'll eventually lay down beside me. And so, but that helped ground me in understanding the purpose of getting that mind to silence, because we truly are going to need to discipline our thought mind so that in the next place that we go, it's very intentional. It's not this random haphazard mayhem that we're living in now. And so I love it. You were able to build for me a picture that I could see and say, now I understand why I need to get good at this skill. So thank you for giving me something to take forward to the mat.
Oh, you're
So,
welcome.
okay,
I'm tickled pink because all I want to do is help make the world a better place and help relieve
right,
humanity and to be happy, happy. I mean, I can't be happy all the time, of course, but to be able to roll with
right,
the punches and take
right, right.
responsibility. Oh my God, there's never been a better time to be alive in my
Right.
experience.
Well,
Anyway,
the
go
No
ahead,
ATT
Kathy.
the No ATT blog has a featured post on there. That's what I put together after I did that 6 or 7 months of reading. I put it up as the featured post. It had, I don't know, 5 or 6 or 7 exhibits. And so recently my mother got laid down with sciatica for 3.5 months. And I had reversed 11 years of it in myself. I was a body worker. I mean, I know all kinds of stuff. I do have a healing prayer gift. I mean, but nothing I tried worked. And I finally looked at her and said, this is a God deal. I don't know why he laid you down, but you're supposed to be here. And so I'm going to quit fighting it. So I came back in here to my computer, and it was about 2.5 months into her ordeal. And I'm sitting here, and God knew not to say, will you write me another book? Because I was like, don't you ever ask me to write another book.
It's hard.
And
it's really a challenge.
It's terrible. It's terrible. And so he said, he didn't start it that way. He said, you already have another book. You just need to turn it into it. And then he brought that featured post to my mind. And so I went, well, there's no sense in arguing with him because he can be pretty persuasive. And the last time I hesitated, I ended up going off of a bridge, and then I got to add a chapter. I have x-rays that show I was a paraplegic. But and I say, well, now it's just got a chapter on how I reversed pain. That chapter didn't have to be in there if I'd have been obedient, but he just made it better. So, well, here's the thing. I got well without prescription medications while an opiate epidemic was forming around me that was ordained by the churches. So yeah. Anyway, it's all right. So I put the featured post together into this little booklet. It is now on there again as the featured post. It's now titled Public Health Warning. It is an open source document. Anyone can copy it, print it, distribute it, as long as it's not for profit or gain. Yep. Like you, none of my sites have affiliate codes. They're all by love offering. If you want to send me some love for loving y'all, that's great. Love makes the world go round. Yeah. I'm not selling anything, everything. So the Truth About Technology site has a section called Solutions. I post a lot of the wearables that I use, some of the supplements that I take for EMF sensitivity, what I'm attempting to do to reverse this condition. And everything there where you can buy Faraday bags for your phones. I've been telling people, look, I expected when our government revealed to everyone that they were tracking you and contact tracing you. I said, I thought I would see your phones wrapped in tinfoil, but I did not. Then when they told you that they were going to be reading your text messages and deleting any disinformation about their new therapy, I again thought I would see your phones wrapped in tinfoil, but I did not. I was shocked when I told you that your phone emits a pulsed modulated microwave signal that has cumulative destructive effects in your body and that your children are 10 times more vulnerable. I thought you would wrap your phones in foil. You did not. One of the things that I say about this Getting Well book, it was dropping people to their knees. They were in tears. People were coming from all over the place. And then when I had my tech injury, all of my supporters went silent. Not all, maybe. They went quiet because nobody wants to give this up. But I'm telling you, if we don't take a very hard look at where we are, how we got here, and take some steps to stop this, we're going to end up in a literal frequency prison planet.
Oh, absolutely. Kathy, we're completely out of time. And if I don't cut the show at this point, it won't get uploaded to the various places. But please stay
Okay.
on after we say goodbye. Was there any
Okay.
just little quick thing you wanted to say?
No, go to the noatt.blog. There's contact options there. There's a solution category there, the other blog and the book blog, and we'll just see where this story takes us. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for listening, and thanks for having me on, Karen.
My pleasure. I am just so excited to be connecting with kindred spirits who really get it,
Amen.
because we
Yeah.
don't talk the talk, we walk the walk, and it's a hell of a lot harder too. And
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you could be here. Thank you to the viewers for joining us. And we'll see you next week on the Quantum Guide Show. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining us on the Quantum Guide Show. Become the change that you wish to see in the world. Subscribe to my YouTube, Odyssey, and Telegram channels. Like this video and share it with your friends. You can also find the Quantum Guide Show and my other podcast called Aliens and Astrology on the Forbidden Knowledge News Network. That's www.forbiddenknowledge.news. And while you're at it, check out my website, www.karenholtonhealthcoach.com, where you will find some amazing products and services and an abundance of free resources to help you with your journey. All of the links are in the description below. And in the meantime, until we see you next week, keep up the good work.
Surrendering to endlessness puts all my inner strife to rest. For time gives birth to hurriedness. It all makes sense, well, more or less. And the sages put me to their test. With heart and soul, I do my best to find the answers to my quest. I wonder and I must confess, I don't know where it comes from, but I know it's okay. If this is all an illusion, then I'm willing to play. It's okay. It's okay.